Yo, what is going on, everyone? I want to thank you guys for tuning in into another installation of the Ref Call Show, which is a Chicago Bulls podcast. Uh, Trying to get better with doing it consistently every week, but my schedule is just it's a little hectic with refereeing. The season is now over, and my wife's singing schedule, but we are here. We are here, and I'm going to make sure that this video or this show is not too long for you guys because the Bulls got a game tonight. The Bulls have a game tonight. Beginning of the season, we thought most of us, as Bulls fans, we thought that this season was just about done. But we are here with the play-in tournament game. So we win tonight, and then we will end up facing the Atlanta Hawks, and then we beat them. We will become the 8th seed facing the Cleveland Cavaliers. But we got to take care of business on tonight at 7:30 against the Miami Heat. So I just want to thank you guys for tuning into the show. If you guys tuned into the last show, I'm normally downstairs in my living room, but I'm working on the other bedroom upstairs. That's going to be the streaming room slash gaming room. So I got a lot of my mom. She sent me some things to hang up in the wall. I have posters. I have other things saved in Amazon. So it's a work in progress. All right. But the goal is to be ready to go for next season. Next season, you won't see this cutout wall with clothes hanging up. You won't see that. All right. This is just a work in progress right now. All right. So you guys are here with the journey. I was a little self-conscious about showing the room that we kind of use just to, as an extra closet. But you know what? I didn't care, man. Because when I look back, when I get to where I'm going to get to down the line with this streaming thing, with podcasting, it's going to be cool to come back and look at the videos from start to where I will become. All right. So with that said, I hope you guys have had a great week. It's been a busy week for me. Reason being is because just to give you guys an update, the reason why this is called the Refs Call Show is because I am a basketball official. All right. As you guys know, I referee high school varsity basketball as well as outside of the varsity games, we do junior varsity, we do middle school, and I do AAU during summer, which is going to be picking up possibly next month. So getting ready for that. But also what comes with that is camps, NCAA camps, Division One, Division Two, Division Three, different conferences, the MEAC, which is here in this area in Virginia. You have the Sun Belt, you have the ACC, you have the SEC, you have the Big 10, Big 12. All these conferences, they do camps once the season is completed to bring in new talent, new referees, to get us in their training program. Because there is a process going from high school to college. That process being, everybody does things differently, different rules for college basketball compared to high school. And to ultimately become a professional referee on the NBA FIBA level, which is my end goal as a referee, right? So I have a referee camp coming up this weekend, which will begin on Friday for Division Three. That will be for the ODAC conference, the Old Dominion Athletic Conference that will be held here in Hampton, Virginia. I'm excited about that. I went last year. That was my first time. So this year, I'm aiming to get picked up. All right. So that's kind of how these camps go. You go for the first year, it's just networking. You paying your dues, right? You pay your camp fee, you network, they see your face, they give you tips, and they encourage you to come back to see how much did you progress from the last year, right? So my goal for the ODAC is to get picked up. I'm excited about that. And then I have another one, which will be the following week, which will be next weekend, starting on Friday. That will be the MEAC, which is a Division One conference. It is also a conference that holds the HBCU colleges and universities, right? Now, with that one, I'm really excited about that one because this camp will be put on by NBA referee Tony Brothers because he is a native of Norfolk, Virginia, and he does a really good job of bringing on fresh and upcoming talent in refereeing if you are good, right? Because his name is on the line. And one of the reasons why I'm excited about this camp, well, two of the reasons why I'm excited about this camp is because the NBA recruiter for referees, she will be at this camp. I connected with her via LinkedIn. I met her face to face last year at the ODAC camp, which is where I will be at this year. So she's going to be there. And also, this is a great opportunity to get put into the NBA grassroots program. And that program is designed to mold you to become an NBA referee, right? So I am really excited about this camp next week. So you get put into the grassroots program, you will begin to referee different events that the NBA puts on for a lot of referees up and coming, that being the PIT. The PIT is a big deal because that is hosted here locally in Virginia, where I live in Portsmouth, Virginia, and that camp, I'm sorry, not that camp, but that tournament starts today. I was going to go, but then, I'm doing the show today, then the Bulls, they play today, and I don't want to miss this Bulls game, right? And so you get into their grassroots program, you get to referee eventually the PIT. And that's one of my goals, to referee the PIT, because I have a lot of people that I know here in the 757 that are rooting for me. I've networked quite a bit throughout the area on the basketball scene, right? So I'm excited about that. So that's enough of me about refereeing. And also, those of you who are tuning in from Facebook, I do this show. I want to give a shout out to Ray. He's the OG of Ray Juice Joint. Make sure you guys subscribe on YouTube and X. He asked me to do this show 2 years ago, roughly, and I decided to do it. I said, why not, man? It's a good time. I can give another viewpoint of the game. So I want to give a shout out to Ray. Thank you. Shout out to all the other guys that are on the network. Julius, Elise, they do the Bears, and Isaiah, they do the Bears. My guy, Justin, and Nine, they do, I can't remember the name of that podcast, Charge It to My Head, Not My Heart, guys. I got a million things going on. But the Ray's Juice Joint is a really cool network to be a part of, and I just want to give a shout out to those guys and to the other shows on the network. So make sure you tune in to when those guys go live as well, right? So Facebook, those of you tuning in, you may see me go live every week whenever I do this show. You may wonder, man, what is Greg doing? What is that? That is why. All right, I build up a following on Twitter regarding Chicago sports and people back home from Chicago. So that is why I do this show. All right. I stream this show live on X, YouTube, and Facebook. Okay. And also, just to give an update on my wife, we have some big news for my wife. We received an email from the Los Angeles Lakers. That is right. The Los Angeles Lakers. They want her to perform for her. And they actually wanted her to perform for their last home game when they played the Rockets. But given that we live in Virginia, the logistics of everything, trying to, pick up and go, get to California out west, room and board flights. The money wasn't there yet. It's coming, but it wasn't there yet. So, but we have decided we will be speaking with them again in the summer once the schedule is released, and we will get a date for her to perform for the Los Angeles Lakers. It's still crazy to me that we have a connect with the Los Angeles Lakers. I have to, every time I think about it, I just have to pause for a second because it's so unreal, man. So I want to give a good shout out to her. We are also working on a new single for her. If you guys don't know that, she did release an album or EP a few years ago, and it did fairly well. But we are now working on her next single. Right, we have a list of songs we're going to do for her album, but we are working on getting that single out first. So stay tuned for that. All right. So when I talked about me rapping, I just want to show this quick video. I'm going to minimize myself because I want you guys to listen to how you can get into refereeing by accident, quote unquote accident.
Coaching, and I thought I wanted to coach, and then they said, hey, why don't you stay and we'll pay you to referee, and they weren't paying me to coach.
I started officiating because my father was a basketball referee, baseball umpire.
I started officiating after I finished playing, kind of a way to stay connected to the game.
I played college basketball at Indiana State for 4 years. I played overseas for about 10 years. I got into finance, so I was kind of away from sports, away from athletics, away from basketball. And just randomly one night, my brother-in-law called me and asked me to go help him out with a men's league game in our local community.
So I stayed and refereed and got $5 for that game.
The honest answer why I started officiating, I wanted to stay around basketball, and I found out that I can make $25 an hour refereeing games rather than $12 an hour scorekeeping.
When you talk about love at first sight, it really was kind of love at first whistle type of thing.
Then once I got into it, I realized that you're literally a part of the game and you get the same rush as participating in sports as a player.
And went off to college and just happened to be studying a rule book one day, and my accounting teacher said, you should go do high school basketball. And so that was kind of what got me going.
So just wanted to show you that video. You saw a lot of prominent guys, or a lot of prominent men, I should say, who were in the NBA as a referee. And you hear their stories about how they got involved into the game. And one guy talked about how at the time he was getting paid $25 to referee a game versus $12 as a scorekeeper. And I just want to say, refereeing, the season begins in November. So you have November, December, January, and then February. And then March is when playoffs kick off. And in 1 month of the season, out of those 3 months, you can bring in, if you get a good schedule, if you're a good referee, you can bring in over $1,000 each month as a referee during varsity basketball season. So just want to give you that. I don't do it for the money. I do it for the love of the game, and I just happen to get paid for it, right? So that's one of the things that I am appreciative of when it comes to the game. So aside from that, now let's get into the Chicago Bulls, the in-season recap. So the Chicago Bulls, we finished ninth in the Eastern Conference. I want to make sure I got that right. And as I said, most of us, we thought that the season was just a lost cause because of the trades that were happening, because of the way we were losing games. It seemed as if we were not progressing, right? We had moved on from DeRozan, we had moved on from Caruso, we brought in Josh Giddey, then we had traded Zach LaVine, and it seemed as if the Bulls were just milling in the season, and it was just like whatever, you know what I mean? But it was one of those things that it was as if a light switch went off with the team. And I've always said that, and we'll talk about Coach Billy. We're going to congratulate him on getting into the Hall of Fame, which is well deserved, one of the greatest college basketball coaches of all time. And we're going to get into him, but I want to talk about the adjustment that he made and the team buying into his vision. And I shared on the last show how he talked about the development of Buzelis and how Buzelis had to really hone in on being what it takes to be a pro, basically. Taking care of your body, being ready for a game on back-to-back days, multiple back-to-back games during the week, traveling, just getting adjusted to that, really developing these young guys into becoming better pros. And I've always said that is one of the areas that Coach Billy has always excelled in. And this is why he was such a phenomenal college coach, which is why I was saying last year and this year that it was better suited for him, for the Bulls and Coach Billy, to move on from him. He can go back to college. He can go back to cultivating young talent, getting them ready for the professional game. Because I don't know if you guys remember, he also coached the Oklahoma City Thunder when they played the Miami Heat in the NBA Finals. You had a young Russell Westbrook. You had a young Kevin Durant. You had a young James Harden. All three of those guys became MVPs of the National Basketball Association. But it was through the coaching of Coach Billy that showed them what they could be. Granted, they did not win the finals, and I wanted them to win because I hated the Heat because of them beating us in the Eastern Conference semifinals. And we'll talk about that further down in the show. And I'm going to make sure this will not be a long show because I want to make sure everybody gets fully prepared for the Bulls game. However, going back to Coach Billy, I always said that he excelled at that, and it showed, right? And so you look at all the young talent that the Bulls had. You have Ayo, you have Kobe is not so much young anymore. He's not considered young. He's considered, he's like teetering on that young to veteran because he's been in for about 6 years now. But he's continued to ascend since he's been in the league. So excluding Kobe White, but you're talking about Ayo, you're talking about Modest, you're talking about Dalen Terry, you're talking about Patrick Williams, all these young guys that we had on the roster that Patrick Williams, we're still not seeing what most of us fans want to see. And it may be just time to admit that Patrick Williams is what he is. He is just a solid role player. He's not going to be that guy that's going to help take your franchise over the top, right? You look at Modest. Modest, he showed the potential in Summer League. He showed it when he got playing time. But I said in earlier in the season in one of my shows that you can see that he was raw. He was very raw, and it took time for him to get adjusted to the game. And Coach Billy talked about this, and I shared in my last show. And he basically said what a lot of us had saw, what came through Matas. And I'm going to share this video of Tim Legler, because Tim Legler gave a great scouting report on Matas Buzelis early in the season. So listen to Tim Legler.
Dude, Buzelis is going to be a stud. He can play, man. That guy's got awesome athleticism. He defends. He is continuing to grow offensively. He's still so young. I think they got themselves a big-time player with that pick. And it might be 2 or 3 years down the road, but I think this guy's got incredible upside. And he's playing really well right now. It's really come together for the Bulls. A lot of young players. They're playing with a lot of belief. And I think there's a great chance they end up in the 8th spot and they end up in the playoffs. Most likely they're going to be in a best of 7 with the Cleveland Cavaliers in the first round. That's how I think this is going to end for Chicago.
One of the things that I love about Tim Legler is that he is, from being a veteran player, knowing the game, knowing how to teach the game, study tape, he was spot on with his synopsis. He almost even nailed the exact position the Bulls were going to be in the Eastern Conference standings. Now, we didn't make it to the 8th seed. We made it to the 9th seed. So he wasn't exactly right, but you can basically say he was right about that. And he nailed it when it came to Matas Buzelis. And when you look at Matas Buzelis, he has great size, 6'10", a little lanky, 209, but he'll beef up as he progressed in his professional career. Reminds me of a lot. I don't want to put this on him because I don't like comparing players to Hall of Famers or their counterparts because they are their own player. But you see a lot of Tony Kukoc in him. Now, he's not that type of shooter, but just skill-wise, the potential to be an all-time great is there with Matas Buzelis. But again, his development is solely credited to Coach Billy. And we have to give Coach Billy credit for that. And which I kind of said the same thing twice. But Coach Billy did a phenomenal job getting Matas Buzelis up to speed. And he's young. He's young, so the Bulls have a diamond in the rough in Matas Buzelis, and hopefully he continues to ascend and become the great player that he is showing to be, right? So that covers Matas Buzelis. The Ayo injury, that was somewhat of a blow because I love Ayo's game. Ayo is not someone that is going to shoot you out of the gym. He is not someone that is going to flash you with the wow plays like an Allen Iverson or Tim Hardaway when it comes to the handles. He's not going to shoot you out of the gym like a Steph Curry or, he's not that guard. He is a solid, well-rounded pro. Ayo's game is going to carry him a long way in the NBA. He has good size on him, and his IQ is fantastic. His IQ is fantastic, but he showed that even in college. I mean, he can make the right play. He defends well, and he's not a sniper when it comes to shooting, but if you leave him open, he will make you pay for it, because you have to have that in today's game. You have to have that. I mean, that's a non-negotiable as a guard in today's game. And so Ayo is a solid foundational piece that the Bulls can use going forward in their rotation, especially given the fact that we are married to Lonzo for at least another season or two. We know who Lonzo is. Lonzo is just a playmaker. I mean, he's a phenomenal playmaker, and the injury, you can tell the injury has taken him aback a little bit, but his vision, his defense, his just all-around playmaker in Lonzo. Kobe White. Kobe freaking White. He has taken on that role of the leader of the team. And I left that up to question last year, not in the negative aspect, but to simply say, is he? Because he's acting like it. And he proved it last month when he won Conference Player of the Year. He averaged 27 points, 4 rebounds and 3 assists. And I remember watching Kobe White early in his career when the Bulls were just the dread Bulls. But he showed flashes. He showed that he wasn't going to be your typical point guard. He showed that he was not going to be the guy that would get you 8 to 10 assists. He's not going to be the guy that's going to come in and run the offense as a floor general like an Avery Johnson, like an Isaiah Thomas, right? But he is the guy that he steps up when a bucket needs to be gotten. That's Kobe. He's a scorer. He's a scorer. I mean, sniper, great handles. I mean, he doesn't turn the ball over. That was a problem with Kobe White early in his career. He had to get his IQ better. His IQ had to get better, right? Because he's a one-on-one player. He's a shooter. So, but looking at him 6-7 years into his career, he is becoming one of the best scorers in the league at the guard position. The Bulls, he is a budding star. And I'm excited. I want Kobe White to retire a Chicago Bull, and I hope that he does. Now we're going to get to Coach Billy Donovan. I've already talked about what he's done for Modest Buzelis, but I said the Bulls. My theme for the Bulls this year was that they were that Cinderella team, and that you don't want to see in the NCAA tournament. That's the Chicago Bulls in the 2024-25 season. They are your Loyola Chicago. They are your VCU. They are your George Mason, right? You don't want to see them because they're going to make you work for that victory. And if you play around with them, they may mess around and knock you out of contention and win the playoff series, right? Do they have enough firepower if they get to the playoffs versus the Cavaliers to beat them in a 7-game series? I don't think so, but they'll definitely make it interesting. It's not going to be easy for Cleveland. But Coach Billy, he got into the Hall of Fame, well deserved. You guys know that he started, and let me do this. Let me make myself small again. If I can bring that up, but I'll just leave it up there. Coach Billy, he started coaching Marshall University in 1996, I want to say, 96, 94. And he was the youngest head coach in Division I at the time. And then he worked his way up the ranks, and he eventually took over at the University of Florida. And I want to say that was, let me pull up my notes here. He took over the Florida University in 96. So he started with Marshall in 94. Then he moved on to University of Florida after coaching at Marshall for 2 years. He moved to Florida in 1996. And he was there from 1996 to 2015. And he made a name for himself. He was a 2-time NCAA Division I tournament champion, 4-time NCAA regional champion, i.e. making the Final Four. He made it in 2000, 2006, 2007, 2014, 4-time SEC tournament champion, 6-time SEC regular season champion. I mean, coach of the year in the SEC 3 times, 2011, 13, and 14. I mean, you name it, he had it in college, right? That's Coach Billy. And then he went to the Oklahoma City Thunder. He had success there. And then he came on to the Chicago Bulls. And he had early success when he had the group of Lonzo, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, and Vucevic before the injuries. We were number 2 in the East. Nobody was seeing us. We were title contenders had we would have stayed healthy. But we're not going to go down that road again. But I just want to give kudos to Coach Billy because he is a phenomenal head coach on the collegiate level, and he is a good coach on the NBA level. He is. And you give him that young talent, he just has a knack for cultivating young talent and getting them where they can be. And that is not an easy feat at all. It is not at all. And so I just want to give Coach Billy his kudos because getting to the Hall of Fame is well deserved. There's nothing left I could say about about the man as a basketball head coach. He still hasn't won on the professional level. So will he do it? That is to be seen. But winning a professional championship is one of the hardest things to do. All right. And so I also want to talk about the Zach LaVine trade, because the Zach LaVine trade was one of those things that we have been waiting for to happen in the past, 3 years now? And it's just one of those things that it just wasn't happening. And the number one thing that the Bulls were held bound to was the contract that we had gave him. The contract that we gave Zach LaVine, nobody wanted to pick it up. And if they were going to pick it up, they were going to give us their trash, their scraps, basically, because they're taking on such a big contract for I think it was a Supermax or a max player. No, I think it was a Supermax, right? So the Bulls, they shot themselves in the foot when it came to the negotiating table, when it came in regards to trading Zach LaVine. But it eventually happened, right? The Zach LaVine trade, it gave us Kevin Huerter, Trey Jones, and Zach Collins. Zach LaVine went to the Sacramento Kings, and with that trade, which was a 3-team trade, De'Aaron Fox went to the San Antonio Spurs along with McLaughlin, right? The way this team is playing and the way the Sacramento Kings are playing, the Bulls and the Kings, they play literally the same. Literally. We get hot, we are tough to beat. But when we ain't hitting on nothing, it's Christmas for the opposing team. Same thing with the Sacramento Kings. They have DeMar DeRozan, they have Zach LaVine, and they have Domantas Sabonis, who I wanted the Chicago Bulls to make a trade for when Indiana Pacers made it known they were going to move on from him. But I digress. From that. Domantas Sabonis, I wanted you as a Chicago Bull. However, it didn't happen. You went to Sacramento. You guys had success. But then whatever happened this past year, I don't know what, but you moved on from the head coach. You traded De'Aaron Fox, and now you have a whole new core there. But the thing is, they're not a bad team. They're not a bad team at all. It's the same thing with the Bulls. We're not a horrible team. We're not. It's just the only difference between us and the Kings is that the Sacramento Kings, they have proven players. They're just not winning as much. The expectations were extremely high for their franchise. And then they went down the tank extremely fast. So they had to make moves. But the Zach LaVine trade, it is showing to be a great trade for the Bulls because it gave us good quality pieces in Kevin Huerter and Zach Collins. Trey Jones is hurt right now, so he won't be playing in the play-in game. But Kevin Huerter, his shooting has been sporadic, but when he's on, he's one of the best in the league. And Zach Collins brings in that 6'11" frame with another big body down low that we can plug in and play whenever we need to give Vooch a rest, or whenever Josh Smith is not able to go, we can plug Zach Collins in. He's not going to wow you offensively, but he's going to play the dirty work game. You know, give me the boards. If you beat him down low, he may clean up some missed shots and put him back in. Right, that's Zach Collins' game. You can make it in the league a long time with that type of game, especially in today's game with there being a lot of shooting going on. But I want you guys to listen to what Stacey King had to say on his podcast, Give Me the Hot Sauce podcast. And I'm going to give a shout out to everybody. I'm going to make sure I tag them on the post when I advertise this episode. Make sure you go follow Stacey King and listen to his Give Me the Hot Sauce podcast because he always has great guests. He's always giving good knowledge to the game. That's one of the best things that the Chicago Bulls have in our announcement team for those games, aside from the radio. When it comes to Chuck and Bill, who do a fantastic job. Shout out to those guys. But Stacey King, what he brings to the game as a former player, someone that played with Michael Jordan, you can't beat it. You can't beat it. And so I just want you guys to listen to what he had to say about the Zach LaVine trade.
Listen, it was hard as hell to try to trade Zach. You were lucky to get back what we got back. Teams were basically holding the Bulls hostage. They were asking for, you give us Zach and you take back our trash. You know,
and give us a first round pick.
And give us a first round pick. You're going to give us a first round pick to take your all-star away. Yeah. A guy that's going to immediately make an impact on your team.
It's all about contracts now.
Exactly. Yeah. So AK was smart. Okay. Call us when you're serious. Click, hang up. And you don't know how long it's going to last. You don't know if they're going to be able to trade him in the trade deadline. You don't know if it's going to be the summer, but they were actively trying to move him. And then they finally got a deal that they thought was fair for them. You're bringing in 3 guys. And this is what I said today. You get rid of Zach. Yeah, you lose a guy who's a dynamic scorer. You lose a guy that can get you 40 points and have huge games offensively. But Zach on the defensive end is non-existent. And, and some of the shots that he takes are questionable.
So Stacey King gave us a great synopsis of the trade and gave us some insight onto what the Bulls were dealing with when they came to trying to trade him, right? And he was right. Zach does not play defense. He is not a guy that you want to rely on as a two-way player for defense and offense. And he would get into those moments where I said he's playing light skin, And my brothers, they know what I mean. You playing light skin, you playing a little soft, right? But Zach LaVine is one of the greatest. He's one of the great scorers in today's game, right? And so, but the marriage it was done. The marriage was over, right? It had to end because we were going nowhere with Zach, and it's better for Zach's career. He moved on to another opportunity to win the title because it was not going to happen in Chicago. It's so unfortunate. So that was Stacey King giving us insight onto the Zach LaVine trade, just confirming what I said and many others had speculated, but just getting the nitty gritty of what the Bulls were really dealing with. All right, so that covers that. Now we're going to go into this play-in game, which is going to begin in about 45 minutes, I want to say. So, do I think the Bulls are going to beat the Heat? I do. The reason why I say that is because the Bulls are 3-0 versus the Heat this season. And I think the Bulls may be out to get revenge as well because we played the Heat in the 2 previous play-in games that we faced them in, and they beat us both times, right? So it's one of those things that is personal. For me, it's personal as a fan, right? It's personal for me because I'm tired of losing to them in the play-in. I don't have great feelings about the play-in. The top 8 should get in each conference, but it is what it is. We're here. I can't do anything about it. I'm not Adam Silver, and I'm not one of those owners, right? So it is what it is. Regardless of how I feel about the play-in, we still have an opportunity to get into the playoffs. So with that, it's personal for me because the last 2 times we have lost to the Miami Heat, and we got to beat these guys, man. We have to. We have to beat the Miami Heat to let them know you ain't gonna keep punking us around in this play-in game, regardless of who we face next, which will be the Cleveland Cavaliers, right? We may get a game. We may get a game in against Cleveland if we beat Miami and if we beat Atlanta. I do think that if we beat Miami, I like our chances to get against Atlanta because Jalen Johnson is hurt. He's out, which is a big blow to the Atlanta Hawks. And it showed last night when they played the Magic. Their offense was hard to watch. It was hard to watch, right? I mean, they couldn't do anything. And, so I like our chances against Atlanta. Although Atlanta, they always play us tough. There's always a tough matchup whenever we play Atlanta. So, but Jalen Johnson being out, that works in our favor if we take care of business tonight, right? Because if we take care of business tonight, we knock out the Heat. If we lose tonight, we're out. And then our season is done, right? And then that'll possibly be the end of the Chicago Bulls side of this podcast because then we'll just focus on the playoffs for the rest of the season, which I am going to do in my next episode. So, like I said, we are 0-2 versus the Miami Heat in the previous play-in games. But we are 3-0 versus the Heat this season. So that's why I like our chances against them. And I'm going to give you guys some history about the Heat versus the Bulls. So the first time that the Miami Heat were ever in the playoffs, which was in the 91-92 season, they lost to the Bulls. In their first ever playoff appearance in franchise history for the Miami Heat, in the 91-92 season, they lost to the Chicago Bulls. They did not only lose, they were swept by the eventual champions, the Chicago Bulls, right? And then let's see here. They were also swept against the Bulls in 1996. That was the year that Chicago Bulls went 72-10 and also won the championship as well, right? So after that, we met again in 2006, but of course we lost to them because they went on to become NBA champions. That was D-Wade's first championship ring, one of the greatest NBA Finals performances ever. I mean, D Wade was going off. I mean, D Wade was so great in that finals. It's one of the greatest performances of all time. Just watching Dwayne Wade just go to work against Dallas in that playoff, in that NBA Finals matchup. But the Bulls faced them. We lost to them in 2006. But then we got our leg back in 2007 because the Chicago Bulls swept the Miami Heat in 2007. And that was the first time in NBA history that a reigning NBA champion was swept in the playoffs the following year. Right? So we made history that year. And then the next time we faced the Miami Heat was in 2010-11 when Derrick Rose won MVP. But then we lost to the Miami Heat in the semifinals of the Eastern Conference. And then, of course, the Miami Heat, they lost to Dallas. So it worked out for us. It worked out. All right? It was great. But we lost in the Eastern Conference Finals to the Miami Heat. The series was 4-1, if I'm not mistaken. And then we met again in 2012-13. And of course, we lost to Miami Heat, and they went on to become NBA champions. So the Bulls and Miami Heat, they have a long, very long history when it comes to the playoffs. You're talking far back as over 30 years. The Bulls and the Miami Heat, it's always been a good battle between us, right? And so it makes you wonder, or it solidifies the reason why Pat Riley retired Michael Jordan's number for that franchise, because he faced the man twice and lost to him twice. I mean, he faced him head on in the 90s during Jordan's run. So that franchise got a lot of the beatings from the Chicago Bulls in the 90s. So shout out to Pat Riley for retiring his number. So like I said, I do think the Chicago Bulls are going to win tonight, and then we will face the Atlanta Hawks. But we got to take care of business tonight. And if I'm not mistaken, the game is in Chicago. So United Center is going to be rocking. It's going to be rocking on Madison Street, man. I hate I'm not there to see it in person. But, that day will come. The day will come. And also just some quick injury news. Josh Giddey, he does intend to play tonight, which is a huge boost for the Chicago Bulls. Josh Giddey, all right, us fans, we got to come to the front of the congregation. All you Chicago Bulls fans, all of you, get to the front of the congregation right now, because especially those who were doubting the Josh Giddey trade. I was on the fence. I never said it was a horrible trade. I understood why, because it worked out for Caruso. He went to a contender, which is good for his career. He had already won a ring with the Los Angeles Lakers when they won it in the bubble. And so him going to the Oklahoma City Thunder, they are now the first seed in the West. It works out for him. And then we got younger. And plus, if Giddey didn't perform well, we were able to move off from him. Right? But it's a win-win for the Chicago Bulls, because we got that first round pick back, and we got a player that gets triple doubles in his sleep, seems like. And his game is, he's another one that does everything. That does everything. He's a great replacement for Lonzo Ball. And I got to give a shot. We us Bulls fans, we got to get a shout out to AK and Mark Eversley for that trade, because we gave him hell for bringing in Giddey. And of course, he had the case that was against him. We're not going to speak on that case. I ain't trying to get Ray's Juju Drunk in trouble. I'm not trying to get my show in trouble. I ain't trying to get nobody in trouble. But he had that case against him. If you don't know what that case is, look it up. And so there was some bad PR that came from that, right? And so a lot of Bulls fans, they questioned the move, and of course they were using that case against Giddey and saying, why would we do such a thing, yada yada. But that trade proved to be a boost for the team, proved to be a huge boost. And now Josh Giddey is going to get a very nice contract. And I would not be mad if that contract came from the Chicago Bulls, because you got to think about it. The Thunder, they went into playoffs last year. I cannot remember if they made it to the Western Conference Finals or not. I cannot remember. My brain is passing me on that. However, he got upset because he was moved from the starting role to the bench role, and he made his frustrations known. And so the Thunder, they did him a solid. They moved him on. They traded him. They brought in a player that has no problem being a dirty man, and Alex Caruso. And Josh Giddey, he was traded to a team that was kind of going nowhere at the time, right? So it worked out for Giddey. He was able to ball out and be effective and help us get to the play-in, right? And get triple doubles out. I mean, like it's nothing, and gave us one of the possibly the highlight of the season. The Bulls were down by 14 points at one time, if I'm not mistaken, maybe more, but I know it was minimum 14 to the Los Angeles Lakers, and he gave us that dynamic shot of a game winner versus LeBron in LeBron's face at half court. Had the United Center going crazy. So Acme, shout out to you guys. Coach Billy, shout out to you. Josh Giddey, shout out to you, because you have helped make this season exciting for the Chicago Bulls when it seemed as if we were in no man's land for the umpteenth time, right? So he's going to get a nice contract, and like I said, I hope it's from the Chicago Bulls, because he's another piece that can be a great foundational piece for the Bulls going forward. You're talking about starting lineup, and I'm going somewhere with this. I'm going to my next point of the show before I end it. You're talking about Josh Giddey at the 1, Kobe White at the 2. You have Modest Buzelis at the 3. They still have P. Will at the 4. He switches in and out. They may have somebody else at the 4. I cannot remember. Then you have Vooch at the 5. But there is a player that is out there that's going to get traded if the Bulls can kind of play the cards right. I think would help set this team to level of contention in the East. Now, I know some of you guys may not like what I'm about to say, but if it does happen, just know you heard it here first in the Refs Call show. In my backup room with my open closet, you see my Bears gear in the back. I got an NBA ball right here, right? But this guy right here, Zion freaking Williamson. There's a report by NBA Central. Shout out to them for this content. The New Orleans Pelicans ownership is expected to instruct Joe Dumars to trade Zion Williamson this summer. Let me make myself back to the big screen. I will, just how I knew Sabonis was going to be the player that he is, he proved it in Indiana already. He proved it already. I wanted the Bulls to even make a move for Jeremy Grant because we needed a 4. Because I kept saying Patrick Williams is not the guy for that position. If anything, he is playing out of position, because he is a small forward, not a power forward, even though he has the body to play that position in today's game, right? I even wanted the Bulls to make a move for Julius Randle, even though he's very ball dominant, and the signs were moving that we were going to move on, eventually from the core that we had. Man, bring in Julius Randle. Put him at the 4. Put him alongside Vooch. That didn't work. That didn't happen. Kind of glad it didn't happen either, right? I even wanted us to go get Jonas Valanciunas, who is one of the most underrated big men in this game, because his skill set, he's another big man that can give you 15 and 10 easy. Easy. I wanted the Bulls to pair him along with Vooch, right? But if the Bulls bring in Zion Williamson. Now, what will it take to give him up? I'm not sure. To bring him in, I'm not sure. I don't know how that's going to work. I'm not here to play GM. I'm just here speaking my piece. All right. I'm not one of those fans that says, well, if we do this, then, we got this trade happening, then we got that pick, and we can't do this further. That's not my job. All right. That's a lot of fans do that. You're not meant to play GM because, for one, you ain't getting paid for it. There's a reason why those guys get paid millions of dollars to be a GM of a franchise. Right? That ain't our job. If that's your thing, though, cool. That ain't mine. No disrespect from me. But if the Bulls find some way to bring in Zion, it's a win-win in my eyes. Because like I said, you have Josh Giddey at the 1, you have Kobe at the 2, you have Matas Buzelis at the 3, Zion at the 4, and if we keep Vooch, which I think we will, he may go somewhere because I think his contract is up, if I'm not mistaken. He needs to go to a contender anyway. He can help somebody win the championship. His game, the way he plays in today's game offensively, he can help any. I wanted him to go to Golden State. I really did. But in Vooch, for now, right? Him and Matas, they play the same position. But Matas is actually taller than Zion. Matas is 6'10", 209. Zion is 6'6", 284. So those guys can be interchangeable. You can put Matas at the small forward position or the 3. You could put Zion, because of his body type, you can put him at the 4. I mean, when he's on a court, nobody is sticking with him down low anyway, right? You have Josh Giddey, who can run the offense, and you got Kobe White as your scorer. And then on the bench, you have Ayo, you have Lonzo, you still have P. Will, who's a quality player coming off the bench. He still has those moments which is like, come on, P. Will, what you doing? But he's a quality player off the bench. You have Josh Smith as your backup 5 or 4. You still have Zach Collins. You still have Kevin Huerter, right? Some of the fat that may get trimmed. Taylor Horton-Tucker may get trimmed, but he's been showing quality minutes, at the time that he's gotten. Javon Carter, he can move on to some other team, right? But if the Bulls were to find a way to bring in Zion Williamson, the reason why I say it's a win-win is for the first reason I just talked about, how it can be a benefit to the Bulls lineup, but also it's a win-win for Zion because Zion is box office. He is box office. I said before that Zion Williamson, John Morant, and Anthony Edwards, that is a 3-headed monster that can become the next crop of stars for the NBA. Alongside Wemby, right? Because the NBA, they're longing for another person to become the face of the league. Well, the only problem is Anthony Edwards, he doesn't want it. And also he got off the court issues. Shout out to all the baby mamas out there. Zion Williamson, he can't stay healthy. He just cannot stay healthy, man. And John Morant, I don't know what's going on in his camp, but the PR is just bad, right? But when he doesn't have any negative images about himself, regardless of who paints it or if he's doing the gestures himself, when he's box office, he's exciting. But they have those 3 things against them. But if Zion can stay healthy, that's the only issue with Zion. And he's now, 6 years into the league. He has yet to play an 82-game season. It's wishful thinking on my part, but I promise you, I promise you, and it will be good for the NBA because Zion going to the 3rd largest market in the country, the Bulls will now become must-see TV. We're already exciting as a scrappy team, in the words of Stacey King, the Cardiac Bulls. But when it comes to the legalities of bringing him on, we would have to give up, what we will bring in as well. I'm not sure about that, but if it can happen, hey, Acme, make it happen, bruh. And the thing is, he doesn't even have to play. He wouldn't have to play every game. You know, we have players that can be put into his position as he rehab, right? So with that, that is the end of the Refs Call show. We are at 50 minutes. I want to thank all 33 of you guys who have tuned into the show. Like I said, it was not going to be long. I try not to make my shows long anyway, because people's attention span are not as long as it once was, right? Including mine sometimes. But we went over everything, the playing game. We went over giving kudos to those players on a successful. Can you call getting to the play-in successful? It's up for debate. It's one of those, but for the culture that the Bulls are building, they want to build a winning culture. You know, that's from the words of the Bulls front office and head coach. They want to build a winning culture, and these young guys, they need to know what it's like to win. So with that, I'm all for it. You know what? I'm all for it. The way the season was going early on, middle of the season, to where we are now, it's a success in my book. You know what I mean? So we gave our congrats to Coach Billy on a Hall of Fame induction, well deserved. Kobe White being the face of the Bulls right now, well deserved. Conference Player of the Week. Modest Buzelis becoming that, showing that stud that he is and the star potential that he has. And so we will see what the Bulls do tonight. I think the Bulls do win on tonight, and I think that we will face the Atlanta Hawks on. I think it's today is Wednesday, so I think we may play them on Friday or Saturday, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll see what happens on tonight. So I'm about to go in here, get my food. My wife has finished cooking, and see what the Bulls do tonight. So this is Gregory Bell, the Refs Call. I want to thank you guys for tuning in to this Refs Call Bulls NBA podcast show. And like I said, I always like to end my show on a positive note. So one of the things that I talk about is pushing past your emotions to stay focused on your goals, right? And if I have any advice to give you guys, is you see what your goals are, you write out your plan, what is necessary to achieve said goal or goals. And you plan all the way to the end, right? But also you want to plan for possible detours. You have to be adaptable. Be ready to adapt, right? Because things may not go as planned always. So, and with that comes your emotions. Frustration, sadness, happy, irritated, anger, all those. Your emotions are going to waver, right? That's just normal. We're human, okay? But if you can keep your mind focused and push past your emotions, regardless of how much they waver, that is an awesome skill to have, right? To all my Christian folk out there, that's one of my daily prayers. God, help me push past my emotions to stay focused on my goals, to see them through, right? And if you're not a Christian, just take that word of advice and apply it to your life any way possible, shape, form, or fashion. All right. So with that said, this is the Refs Call show. I am out. And if the Bulls win, that will be fantastic because we will have another show centered around the Bulls. So you guys have a good night. Go enjoy yourself and get comfortable for this Bulls Heat play-in game. And I am out.